Hey guys, this is Ken. I decided that I was going to do a video tutorial and we'll see how this goes. For the most part, I'm going to start kind of at the beginning. I'm hoping that possibly this will help people who are still struggling with the basic concept of building a web page. Okay? Now, I will probably break this down into 3 videos, but the first one that we're going to be working on is just creating a simple document. After we're done with that, we're going to optimize, create images, and get ready to put them in a slider that I have selected to add interactivity to my web page. And then we will, probably in a third video, we will add the slider into this page. Okay, so first thing, this may take a while. I'm not sure how it's going to go. So let's just get started. I created a blank document. Now don't get weirded out that this is a different version of Dreamweaver. The concept is still the same. The HTML is still the same. The CSS is still the same. Everything is the same. It will just look different to you than what you see on your screen. All right, so I've created a new document. I haven't saved it as anything yet. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to manage sites. I'm going to do new site. I am going to create, I'm going to do a new folder, and I'm going to call this demo. I'll hit create, and then I will choose this, and I'm going to call this site demo. Now I know you all know how to do this, but I just want to go through it just in case somebody is still struggling. I'm going to go to advanced settings, local info. I'm going to create my image folder. Here, I'm going to call this images. Remember, all lowercase, and it should be called images. I'm going to choose, and for right now, that's all I'm going to put in. I can do more later, but right now, it's going to be like this. I'm going to hit save, and we see the files up here. Okay, so I'm going to file, save as. Now, normally I would say save as index, but remember that index is your home page and it has to be called index. Otherwise the server doesn't know what page to show when somebody goes to your domain. For this, I'm going to call this demo slider. I'm going to go all lowercase so I don't have to worry about remembering whether or not I use capital letters or lowercase. So I always use lowercase, DEMO underscore slider, SLIDER .html, and it will be in the demo folder that we just created. I'll hit save. I'm going to change the title. I'm going to come up here. Now I can change this a number of ways, but this is just easier for me. I'm going to call this Nebo Slider Demo. Now I could go in and start doing other things, give it keywords, but I usually wait to do keywords and description afterwards. All right, so for the body, I'm going to start with just building a basic site. I'm going to do insert div at insertion point. I don't have any classes yet, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to hit OK. This is going to be the head of my document, not the head of the whole page, but of my body. This is what I'm going to put in here. Okay, for right now, I am going to call this is my header to give me an idea of what I'm going to do. I'm also now going to create a container. Now I'm going to go up into the code here where it says body, and above where I put that last div, I'm going to put another div in, and this time I'm going to type it. Div, and I'm going to close this off. And I'm going to call this page. I'm going to do all lowercase. No, well, this is just for me to know what I'm working on. Page container. Now I don't always work this way, but because I'm explaining as I'm going, I could get confused later on of which was which and which was which. Okay, so to make it easier on me to remember, I'm going to, after the word container, I'm going to hit enter a few times. And the reason why I'm doing that is it kind of creates a gap between the div, what I know what the div is going to be, and the div below it. So I'm going to do Command X on this closing of the div, and then after this one, I'm going to hit enter a few times, and then I'm going to close that original page container off. Now this is not going to have text when I start actually configuring it, but for right now it does. This is just to let me know what's going on. Inside my header, I'm going to put another div. I'm going to nest another div, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give this some space, and I will insert another div. I'll go up here to my menu bar, and I'm going to insert a div. I don't have any classes yet, and I want to make sure that there's enough space that I can tell what is being closed off. Eventually we can kind of fix it so it doesn't look strange when we're looking at the code, but this gives me something to work on. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to call this is my menu bar. Under this header, I am going to do another div. Now the reason why I'm doing another div is I want the container for the slider. So I'm going to add another div. This time I'm going to type it out, div. I'm going to type in, this is the slider container. I'm going to close that div off. And normally I would probably go back underneath this and do a footer, but for our purposes, I'm not going to. It will just take more time, and I don't think that you really need it. I think you kind of get an idea of what we're working towards. All right, so now what I have to do is I have to start configuring what I want my site to look like. First thing, I am going to give the page container a slight background. What I'm doing this for is to create kind of some variety between the background and the page, the web page. First, I have to create a CSS. So I'll do File, New. I'm going to create a CSS. I'm going to hit Create. And I'm going to save this file, save as body.css. Again, lowercase, because I don't want to try to guess, did I put it uppercase? Did I do it lowercase? Did I do capital B? There's all sorts of different reasons why we always do lowercase. Once you get into that system of always doing lowercase, you never question it. I'm going to hit... Actually, I think I'm going to put it in a separate CSS. So I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a new folder, CSS. I'll hit create, and I will save my document there. So our first CSS that we're going to create, or our style that we're going to create, we're going to call container. So I'm going to do dot contai container. I'm going to give it the curly brackets. I'm going to tell it the width. Now remember what I said, that the maximum size, but we're going to, is like 1260 is typically what we would say with the maximum size. Otherwise your page format will break down either when it's shrunk or when it's really large. So I'm going to do what I always talk about in class, and I'm going to say 80%. So I'm going to do width, and I'm going to say 80%. Do semicolon after every one that every characteristic or attribute that we put in. I'm going to put margin. I want margin left. I'm looking at this side. I'm going to push this container 10% over to the right. And the reason why I'm doing that is because 10% of this margin plus 80% here is 90%. That should leave 10% on the other side. So I'm going to do margin left 10%. Let's say background, color. I'm going to use the color picker, hexadecimal. I'm going to do EF, 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 which is a light gray. EF, EF, EF. Now you can pick however you want, but if you get used to using hexadecimals, you should be fine. Put my semicolon here. And a lot of times, just to help me visualize what's going on, I will put the height. I'm not going to do it right now because it's really not the best way to create things. Usually the elements inside of the container will dictate the height. And if everything is done correctly, the container will stretch the height to be the size that you want it to be. So for now, I'm not going to use the height attribute. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to come over to my demo here, and I am going to file, attach style sheet. I'm going to link, don't import, but link. I'm going to browse, go into demo, CSS, body, and I'm going to hit open. Okay. All right, so very first, the page container, div page container, I am going to assign the container. We do this pretty standard. It's called class is equal to quotation mark, and I'm going to call it container. Now, remember when we created it, we put a period in front. We do not put the period in front. All right, now I'm going to test this to see if it's working the way I expect it to. I'm going to File, Real-Time Preview. I'm not going to do it in Brave. Brave is, I actually ran into a problem. Brave isn't showing it. So I'm going to do Firefox. And you can't see it, it's on the other screen. I've got another screen over here. It is working. I have this gray area, I'll show you real quick. And you can see that all my content is contained in that page container. So one of the things that I'm not happy with is I don't have some padding here, because I want there to be I want there to be a margin inside and of the content. So we have a container that has a margin on the outside, and then we have a space inside where everything kind of doesn't just go up against the edge of the container. The header, the menu bar, all these things need some sort of breathing room to make it look like it's not cramped. So what I'm going to do, we don't call it a margin when it's inside. What we do is we call it padding. So for the container, I'm going to add another one that is padding. And I'm going to give it all the way around. Ultimately, I may not want padding everywhere, but for the container, I think this is not necessarily a tutorial I'll walk you through on how to create a web page. I think everybody knows how to do that now. So I'm not going to try to be really specific. I'm just going to do a padding. And I am going to say 15 pixels, 15 px. Do my semicolon, and I'll save this and go into my demo slider. Now, for some reason, this is not updating. So what I'm going to end up doing is when I do previews, like I said, I have Firefox over here, and I'm going to be looking. Hopefully your, whatever one you're working with, if you're working along with me, you can do the same thing. So I'm going to do File, Real-Time Preview, Firefox. And yes, I do have a margin there. Okay, so now we're going to go down, because the container is there, I want to work on my header. So I am going to do a new style for my header. I'm going to come here, and my next style is header. So I'm going to do dot header, my curly brackets, the first thing I want it to take up the whole space across this the container. It won't take up the 15 pixel padding that I put in on either side or at the top, but that's okay. I mean, I typically, it looks okay doing it this way. So I'm going to put width. I'm going to put it at 100%. I'll hit enter. Whoop, forgot my semicolon. I'll hit enter. And on this one, I think I'm going to try to give it a height. This could go the wrong way, and if it doesn't work the way I'm expecting it to work, I can come back and change it. So I'm going to say HEI, height, and I'm going to put it at 300 pixels. Semicolon. And I think I'm going to give it a color. Okay, so we're going to say background, background color, and let's see, I'm going to do a color picker. I'm going to make it slightly darker, I think, I'll go CC, 6 C's, CC, CC, CC. I'll hit enter, put my semicolon in, and I guess I'm going to go back and check this. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back in here. Now it's not letting me view, so I am going to go into View or File, Firefox. Oh, I did not assign the class to this. So I'm going to say class is equal to quotation mark header. Now let's see if this updates. I'm going to preview it. Just to see what I'm talking about. I don't really like the light gray with the dark gray. If anything, it should be reversed. But all I'm trying to do is show you how I would work, okay? One of the things we have to do is we have to remove the text here because we know that this is the container. We don't need that information anymore. So I will come in and remove the text. Now I could do it here, page container. I'll just try it here. See what happens. How it gave a non-breaking space, I don't want that, so I'm going to remove it here. Okay, and I'm going to create my next one, which is my menu bar. So I'm going to hit here, and I'm going to do dot menu bar. Now I am going to do a menu as well, but so understand I'm doing menu bar. This is what's going to contain the menu itself. So I will put my curly brackets in. I'm going to give it some space. And I'm going to make this red. I'm going to do background, color, and I will do the color, and I'm going to do this right here. This probably look okay with the gray that I picked. I'll hit enter. Semicolon. I'm going to hit return. I'm going to do width 100%. 100%. I'm going to do margin. No, actually I'm not going to do a margin. I'm going to do padding. Padding. Padding, I'm going to say 5 pixels. And I'm also going to give it a height. And I want the height to be what I consider to be a normal size for a menu bar, which is about 35 pixels. So I'm going to do 35 px semicolon, and I'm going to save this. First I'm going to copy my text menu bar, Command C, I'll go in, I'll save this, I'll go into my source code, and where it says this is my menu bar, I'm going to hit space, class is equal to menu bar. All right, now before I go any further, I want to test this. So I'm going to go to File, Firefox, okay. It does look okay, kind of, but see what I'm looking at? I'm going to now configure this a little bit. I do not like the red. I don't like the gray, but at least you're seeing what I'm seeing. I'm going to push the menu bar down by giving it a margin top. Now, if you remember, we went 35 pixels, and then, well, let's just go into here. On the header, we have 300 pixels. So we're going to do, there's padding of 5 on this, but I'm going to do, oops, looks like I forgot a semicolon. I'm going to give it a margin top of typically what I would do is I would take the 300 that we put for the header itself, subtract any margins, anything that we have, let's see, well, we don't have anything there. We have margin top, padding 5, and 35. So 40 minus, I'm going to do 260 because 40, 35, and 5 minus the 300, we're just going to try this. Margin top, 260. PX, and then semicolon. I'll do save, and I'll come over here, and I will preview. Okay, see where it is? Now, this is going to be a little bit of an issue, but to be honest, these little things are the ones that take time to kind of fix. What we could do is we could put 90% or 89% to give it a little bit more space on the side, or we could do margin right, say 10 pixels. At this point, I don't care about it. All we're trying to do is to show you how I would create this page, okay? So I'm gonna come in here where it says div class menu bar, where we've been working, right? I am going to put my menu system in, okay? Typically what you would expect is home. Now I'm going to do it all in caps. Home, I'm going to hit space, whoops, home. I'm going to hit, you get one space before you have to do a non-breaking space. Now I'm going to do shift, I think it's shift command space. There's my non-breaking. I'm going to hit space again. I'm going to do the pipe, just straight up and down. Actually, I think I want to keep this like this. I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to do here, maybe, now I'm going to stick with the code. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to do contact, space, pipe, space, about, space, pipe, and let's just put in support. And I'm going to do another space to give it a little bit of area on the right hand side. Okay, now that we've got the menu done, I'm going to add the links. Now the easiest way to add links is to use the properties window. So I'm going to go to Window, Properties, and you can see right here, this window, I know some of you don't like this, but it actually, for me, it helps. I'm going to change this to none. And I'm going to put, remember the null link is the hash mark. For the most part, I'm happy with this when you're first starting out. You do need to put them in later on, but I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go to contact, I'm going to go to about. Again, it's pretty simple. I'm going to go to support. All right, so now you can see that we have links here. What I'm going to do, I am going to, first of all, I think I'm going to give this a border. So my menu bar, I'm going to give a border, okay? So I'm going to go into body CSS menu bar. I will put in border, style. I'm going to do, let's go solid. I'm going to go semicolon, border. I want width, thin, semicolon, border, color. Let's see, color. And I'm going to use the color picker, and I am going to make it black, I think. No, let's go kind of a dark gray, darker gray. I'll hit enter. I do my semicolon. And while we're here, I'm going to clean this up a little bit, bring this up. I don't think I'm going to be doing anything more with the menu bar. Okay, now I just did a preview, and you should, I don't know if you caught it, I did not catch it, but this is the typical kind of weird thing that will happen when you're working with websites. Notice span class. What span means is the distance from here to here will have this class. Now this is an old school way of doing it. We don't do it like this anymore. Because I didn't have the cursor in the right spot, I got an error. To show you what happened, I'll bring this over. Notice that my home is not quite working. And I couldn't figure out what was happening. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to take this menu bar class. I'm going to do Command X, and I'm going to put it back into the div that I originally had it in. Now I'm going to remove the span, because that's bad code. You don't want to leave that in. And the closing span as well. All right, now this jumped back to it. Let me do a preview. I'm going to hit save, file, in Firefox. Okay, so now it just jumped down to here. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to configure our links. We want them to look a certain way. Now, normally I wouldn't do it the way I'm going to be showing you. This is kind of like the shotgun method. This changes all the links to the same color. Typically what we would do is we would choose a class, for example, menu bar, and then we would assign links that have that class of menu bar would be a certain way. And I know that most of you are able to do this. I've seen your work. So, but for now, we're just going to make it easy. So I'm going to do a:\link, open my brackets, and I'm going to say color is white, semicolon. I'm also going to say font weight. I'm going to put it up to probably just bold, semicolon. And I'm going to now move on to the next one. Now, because the attribute of link has already said that the font color is white, it will always stay white unless, well, that's not technically true. It will keep the attributes unless the next stage will change the attributes. For example, it will always be bold. Now when it goes to visited, it will change to the blue until we configure it. So if that makes sense, I don't have to put font weight bold again because it's not going to change. So I'm going to go here, hit enter, and I'm going to do A colon. Now notice that I don't put the period in front of the A. This is like an actual HTML tag. We're not creating the tag is already there. And I'm going to do hover. Whoops. And I'm going to put, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. And I'm going to say color here, and I'm going to make it black. So I don't necessarily have to put the hexadecimal, but so like for example, I can just type in black, semicolon, and up here I forgot what I want to do is do text decoration, font dash, let me figure this out, text decoration, and I'm going to put none. Okay, and the reason why I do that is because the normal state of a hypertext link is an underline. Here I'm going to go text decoration, text decoration, I'm going to go underline, right? Now our next state is visited. I'm going to put this after the A link. So I'm going to do A colon visited. I'm going to put colon here, or yeah, curly brackets, and I'm going to copy this right here and put it right after here. So basically, I don't want there to be a difference between the visited and the link itself. Over here, file, Firefox. Okay, here I'll show you. I'm not sure what the error is. I don't know why it's showing. See, now we have all these links here. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to create just white text for these pipes that we put in. I want to remove this slider container text. All right, I just wanted to double check. I'm seeing something that I don't really like, but everything, the code looks correct to me. I don't see any overlapping divs. Everything looks like it's opened and closed properly. So one thing I did notice here is that there is no space in between the pipe and the word home. Okay, so I just put that space in. Now I'm going to go in back to the body CSS and let's see if I can align. Oh, I need one more. Sorry about that. We need active. So I'm going to go return A colon active semicolon, and I am going to do Command V. Basically, I kind of want it to stay the same. Okay, so now I want a standardized typeface. I'm going to choose a sans serif. I prefer sans serif over a serif typeface. Serif looks too formal, looks too old school, There are places for it, but generally my default is sans serif. So I'm going to do body, and I'll hit enter here, and I'll say fonts family, and I will go with, now actually I'm not really sure what Gotham looks like, but I like Helvetica, so if it's with Helvetica, my guess is it's similar. I'll hit save. I'll do file real-time preview in Firefox. Show you what it looks like. Okay, see, I think this looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go back into my body CSS, and I am going to try to move my menu over to the right-hand side. So here's the menu bar. This is what I want. And I'm going to align, text align. I'm going to do right, semicolon. I hit save. This should be updated. I don't know why it's not updating. Just Dreamweaver, okay. Real-time preview, Firefox, and I will bring this over here, and you can see that now it's over to the right. I think it's time to start configuring our content here. So this is for the slider, but we're going to put in some text and an image first, mainly because I want to make sure that everybody can kind of get how to do this. I know some people have struggled with it, so I'm going to kind of go over this as quickly as I can, but still I do want to keep it slow enough that people understand what we're doing. All right, so we have, this is the slider content, all right? I am going to put another div in here. And I'm going to close this off. I will return this down like this. Again, I always break it up so I can kind of see what's going on. If all the text is jammed up together, I would have a hard time understanding which div goes to which. All right, and then I am going to put an image in here and some text. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some text in. So I'm going to do P. P means paragraph. I'm going to do lorem. And if I can remember this correctly, I'm going to put 255 tab. Let's see if this updates. Okay, it does update. Now what I want to do is I want to add at least one image. I think one image would work. To do that, I'm going to take some images into a folder. So I'm going to stop this for just a second, and then I'm going to start up again. All right, the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to optimize this image. If you look, it's 353 megabytes, way too large for a website. So I'm going to go up to image, image size. I'm going to change the resolution. You can see it's 4800. I don't want that. What I want is 72. And I am going to change, I'm going to resample, and I'm going to put this down at, say, 300 pixels. Change this to pixels. So it's 72 by 300 and 231. This is about what you want. It could be wider. 600 If you want to go the full width of the page, it can be bigger, but 72 is what you want to leave it as. I'm going to hit OK. And I would do File, Save As. Now I want to save this in the correct folder. I know some of you have had some issues with this, so I'm going to go down, make sure that you're, I think, temporary working, demo, images, and I'm going to call this car accident. Remember, all lowercase, no spaces. I know some of you have ignored that, but there should not be any spaces. Some servers will show a broken image if you have a space there. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to put it at maximum. Now I'm going to go back into Dreamweaver and I'm going to insert an image. So I'm going to go here, go insert image. I'm going to do car accident, open. I will hit save. Make sure that this is correct. Let me see, I'm going to slide this forward. Now I'm looking here. Now, this is the kind of weird stuff that happens, and I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but it's not in the image folder. So my guess is I put it in the wrong folder. So I'm going to go back into Photoshop. I'll do File, Save As. And I'll bet you I put it in the wrong one. I'm going to do working folder, images, no, CSS. Okay, what's happened is that Dreamweaver has not updated it yet. There it is, it just showed up here. Now it's here. It should show up here eventually. Let me do a File, Firefox, and I'll bring this over. And you can see that it is actually working. It's just that Dreamweaver is not updating it. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to give, I'm going to look over here. There's a couple things going on. We can see that there's overlap. We don't want that overlap. So what I am going to do is I am going to give this a margin, or the bottom of the header, give it a margin down of even higher. I think the easiest thing to do is this right here is, I think it was body, or what do we call it? Oh, we don't have a name for it yet. But this area, I'm going to give it some space, okay? So I am going to go into body CSS, and I am going to go here, hit return, and I'm going to call this content. Let me get this out of your way. Contents. I'll hit enter a few times. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it some space. I'm going to go margin top colon, and I'm going to give it about 30 pixels, 30 px, semicolon, and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to assign this now to the HTML. So I'm going to do this div right here, and we'll say class is equal to contents. All right, I'm going to save this. Now, the reason why I'm previewing constantly is because I want to make sure that I don't make a mistake as, I don't spend all of my time trying to fix mistakes. I'm fixing the mistakes as I make them. Okay, so I'm going to save this, file, preview in Firefox, and I'll bring this over so you can kind of see what's going on here. All right, so now I have a gap there. The next thing I want to do is I want my text to flow around the image. Okay, so I am going to tell it to float left. That's for the image. So I'll go into my body CSS, and I'm going to say car accident. I'm going to do dot car ax underscore content. So I know that it's part of the content div. Now that helps me. It may confuse you, but you decide the best way to do it for yourself. Do my brackets. I'm going to hit enter a few times, and I'm going to tell it to float left. Floats. Let's see if it gives me float left. No, I'll go floats left semicolon. Now, if I've done this correctly, I should see the preview of the text wrapping up around here. So I'm going to do File, Real-Time Preview, Firefox. And it appears that I didn't. And I think I know why. Because I didn't assign it to the images. So I hate when I do that. It's just such a dumb thing. So we have image source. We have width 300. Okay, that's what we want. I'm going to change the alt here before we actually get in and make other changes. I'm going to change this to car accident. You should always add your alt tags. It will help your images be found on Google image search if it knows exactly what it is. But now, after the actual image location, I'm going to put class is equal to car ac content, and make sure that it's been closed off. I'm going to give this a little bit of a space. I'll hit save, and I will preview again. This time, hopefully, it will do what I want it to do. All right. See how the text came up? We have a problem here with the margin. There's no gap here. So what I am going to do is I am going to tell it margin right. I'm going to give it probably about 25. Now, if I do margin top again, it's going to push this down. It's also going to push this down. But so for just the image, I am going to tell it margin right 20 pixels. Okay, so margin right. And I said 20 pixels, but I think 20 is fine. Yeah. I'm going to save. I will preview. Okay, so you can kind of see what's going on right now. I also we need an image in here. So I'm going to kind of play around with some stuff a little bit later on. But for right now, let's finish with the content, at least getting it to where we want it to be. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to give the search engines something to be interested in. And I don't know if you remember me talking about H1 is something that they would be interested in. When they see something that says H1, they hone in on it. It means that's really important to the website. So I'm going to come in, because we're working with lorem ipsum, I have complete freedom on the amount of space that I want to use. So I chose like 6 letters. I'm going to make this capitalize. And I am going to end this P right here. Remember, that's a paragraph. So I'm basically starting a new paragraph. I'm going to close this one out. I do that by doing this right here. Now I have one of these. I should have, Dreamweaver, thank you. Dreamweaver decided that to take this away, I guess. I don't know why it's not there, but I'm going to do another one. And I will come down here and then close this one off. And I am going to assign this. I'm going to actually, I think, I'm just going to do an H1. And make sure that I close that off. Now sometimes H1s are way too big. Well, let's see how this works. I'm going to save this file, preview in Firefox, and we have something about like this. This is HTML4, but I'm going to try this. I'll edit it out if it doesn't work. I'm going to do HR, which stands for horizontal rule. And I will save it, and I will file preview in Firefox. Okay, so now we have a line here. Now you can configure the horizontal rule as well. For example, we can move this up closer, but I am going to leave this like this. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is breaking this off here, taking this down and doing H2 to give it a little bit more like a subtitle. Okay, so I am going to grab, say, this right here, Command X. After the H1, I'm going to do I'm going to do H3, I think. And I will Command V, and I will close off the H3. I will save and file. All right, now what we're going to do, I think I'm going to do H1 and I'm going to put margin bottom probably like 10 pixels. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I don't like the gap here. But I can also kind of play around with it too. So I'm going to go H1. Now remember that this is a HTML tag, so we don't need the period in front of it. I'm going to do H1 this right here, and I'm going to do margin bottom. Let's see, margin minus 12 pixels. I'll hit save, file, Firefox. I can't tell if there's a big difference. No, it did change. Okay, so I'm going to do this again. Here, just to show you, this is what it looks like now, and this is what it did look like. So we can kind of see that it did change. Look where this line is. It did go up, but I don't think it's gone up as much as I want it to. So I am going to go back into body CSS, and I'm going to do -20. I'm going to actually do -25. That way, if I'm not doing little tiny increments, I'm going to save, file, Firefox. Okay, you can get a sense of it now. I think that this looks pretty good. This is kind of what I was going for. Now what I could do is do HR or the H3 -20. So I will actually do that as well. I'm going to do H3 margin bottom, H3, and I'll do margin bottom. I'm just going to grab this right here instead of having to copy it or to retype it. Put it right here, and I will put it at, say, 10. We'll try this. File save. I'm going to go over to here. File real-time preview in Firefox. Okay, this is more what I was looking for. Okay. Okay, okay, the next thing I want to do, is I want to put a background image on my header here. Okay, and the only reason why I'm doing this, to be honest, when I first started this was only going to be about the slider, the script putting in, but I'm actually thinking that I probably should have had a walkthrough like this. I was hoping that the tutorials would do it, but evidently people were struggling with the tutorial, so maybe this will help some people. So we'll see. I want a background image that goes all the way across here. Okay. I'm going to go into Photoshop. Now, roughly, since this is a percentage, I mean, I can make this very large. I mean, it can be all the way over here. The image has to be fairly large. Now, notice that this image here is not moving, so that stays the same. That can be optimized to whatever you want. Okay? If you wanted it 600 pixels, it can be 600 pixels. If you do this header at 600 pixels and it stretches way out, then there's an issue. Okay? I want to put an image, a background image here. Okay? I figure some of you might be interested in doing this, so I'm going to walk you through the steps. All right, first of all, what we need to do, now I've already created an image that I'm going to be using, so I am going to go into my body CSS. Now, because this is the header, that's where my code is, so I am going to go into header here. I'm going to do background, image, URL. I'm going to browse for the image that I'm looking for. Now, like I said, I already created this. You can see this 1300 pixels wide and 532 high. So I'm going to hit open, put my semicolon here. Now I want it to cover. So what cover means basically is that it will be the size of the div that it's contained in. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure the best way to describe it, but I'm going to go background, size, and we're going to do cover. And I'm going to save this. Now the reason why I put it, now some people, you may actually just want to put the image in, but the reason why I did it as a background image is because now I can put text over the top of it. where I couldn't before. All right, so I'm going to save this. File save, go to my source code and a file real-time preview with Firefox, and let's see if that worked. All right, this is what I have. Now remember, because I used cover, it should always stay, it should always fill that div. Now we're going to get some weird results, but that's okay. I mean, for our purposes right now, notice it will always fill that div. Now if we look up here, the text is still there that's in that original div. All right, so if anybody was trying to do this before, this is a good way to go. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some text up here. So there's actually some text already. This is my header, okay?